If I could, while we're on unanimous consent, have a unanimous consent request from the Chief Legal Officer of Paramount Skydance Corporation for a statement to be entered into the record.
Without objection. The gentleman from North Carolina is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all to the panel for your time and your expertise you've given today. Real quickly, Dr. Ezrielev, if the government is going to intervene to stop these mergers, it has to prove that the merger is eliminating competition rather than creating benefits for the consumers. Now, you mentioned in your written testimony a phrase that caught my attention when you talked about significant efficiencies that would counterbalance any harmful effects associated with an increase in market concentration. What potential efficiencies could you foresee arising from the mergers between Warner Brothers and Netflix or Paramount?
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. So there are several sources of efficiencies. The most obvious one is that this is a vertical deal. So that means that I'm talking about Netflix and Warner Brothers. The same goes for Paramount and Warner Brothers. It means that they're both creating content and distributing content. So by combining the distribution channels of both Netflix and Warner Brothers, there are more efficient ways of distributing content to viewers. And sometimes you could achieve elimination of double marginalizations so that you don't charge your affiliate a margin, so that you're saving costs. That's potentially cost savings. Another source of efficiency may be better use of data. One of the things that Netflix does very well is recommending shows to people who are likely to enjoy those shows. And that requires a lot of data analysis, also creation of shows that are going to appeal to the right audience, that shows that people are going to watch. That's very risky, requires a lot of data. By combining the data of both HBO Max and Netflix, they will be able to better understand what viewers want to see. They will be better able to market the shows so that the right content is reaching the right viewer. So those are two of the bigger ones, but there are probably others.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Ms. Milusian, in your written testimony, you did mention that today's calls for an antitrust intervention in digital streaming markets is similar to those of the past. How is this conversation we're having today similar to those in 2005 when you specifically talk about Blockbuster seeking to purchase its rival Hollywood Entertainment?
I think it's just a big temptation for all of us as human beings and regulators especially for whatever reason, to take kind of a snapshot of things as they are and view them as static and then deal with those problems as they see them. But in fact, of course, we have to remember and we get reminded periodically, it's not static, it's dynamic. And while the marketplace is out making changes that no regulator should be expected to understand, there's a certain amount of economic data that should and will be evaluated in whatever deal ends up happening. That's fair. There's great precedent for that. There's considerations like efficiencies offsetting any potential competitive harms. That's great. But at some point, there has to be some amount of regulatory humility that also enters the conversation that says, we can't actually predict. To say, how will Netflix do after this deal? I don't know. They don't know. The people who have skin in the game usually make the best case, but we've heard about mergers that weren't successful in the market as well. No one can know the future, and you just have to sort of keep a little bit of deference to market forces and interested parties in your mind as you look at these deals.
Are there any specific mistakes that you might reference that regulators made in 2005 that regulators today should avoid?
I think not looking at the bigger picture in terms of what technologies are going to come online that sort of overthrow the whole system, right? That we all used, I sadly am old enough to remember renting DVDs at Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and then when things got really fancy, there were those boxes at the grocery store. Amazing innovation. Netflix came along and we couldn't believe they were doing it through the mail. That was wild, and we love that too. there's other factors outside the narrow band of the data regulators are going to look at in this that are happening outside, but nevertheless might be impactful. I think you have to make sure that by intervening in these market deals, you're not preventing some of that beneficial innovation unknowingly.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman